Thank you very much. So today I have two fantastic guests who are going to speak to you. First of all, I'm going to invite Paul to come and tell us about Regenerative's partners as our Who's in the Room featured business. And then Matt is going to talk to us more about his expertise in social media and how we can make our social media be a little bit more exciting. So first of all, I'm going to go over to Paul. Paul's based down in Bath. He tells me he has an empty nest, but he is there with his wife and beloved hound. So I want to know what the hound is first. He supported business leaders across the UK, Europe and the US in leading change in their organisations for more than 20 years. 4 years ago, he trained with the pioneers of regenerative practice in the US, Regenesis Group, who have been developing this approach for 30 years. Regeneration is now the key framework that he brings into businesses. So he's looking at clients at biotech, food production and outdoor learning, which I'm fascinated by. So, Paul, your first question, if you're ready.
Yeah.
How can I make sustainability, like committing to net zero, a differentiator for my business?
Um, Most people look at the net zero question and see it as a project. I tend to invite people to see it as a more fundamental invitation to look at their business model again and to look at their value proposition again. And I'll give one example. I'm working with, so one of the clients you mentioned there was an outdoor learning centre. I think I mentioned that in my introduction as well. They're in the Forest of Dean. They're called the Wilderness Centre. Essentially, it's been up on a hill near Mitchell Dean there since probably since the late 50s, early 60s. It's been a country house since the middle 1800s, but essentially it's been a refuge, a hospital for infectious diseases, for wounded soldiers after the wars, and then a refuge in the sense of being a kind of learning centre for young kids. The person who runs it, the director who runs it, has been interested in sustainability for a long time, but not really understanding how do I apply it. And then we got into a conversation about net zero. And I said, well, look, how about if you tell me about your business? And he essentially explained, look, this is where kids come once or twice a year to have a run around. Research says it's great stuff to have kids running around and doing exercises, team building and so on. But he said, what I've noticed is actually, when I get out of the way, I don't try and overplan it, try and make every second of their experience count, and just let the outdoors do its work. It seems to create value. So I said, well, why don't we try to build on that? And he said, well, look, can we weave in net zero into this in some way? You know, we've got a massive boiler that's costing us a huge amount of money. And it's running on gas at the moment and very inefficient. So we began to talk about nature as, if you like, the source of value for the business, a new value proposition that could extend further into the future than simply offering outdoor learning, which, you know, is getting more and more expensive for schools. As we know, the whole public sector is being squeezed. And do tell me, Vicky, if I'm going on too long here.
No, that's absolutely fine. You keep going.
Okay. So he said, okay, so what do we do? So I gave him lots of reading material and essentially to see the whole the nature itself, the outdoors, as creating more potential value than he's currently getting from it. So he's embarked on a land management plan, rewilding it, allowing the wild boar to come across the land and dig up the wildflower meadows, creating lots of biodiversity, insect life, brought lots of birds back, conservation grazing, bought ponies, putting in new hedgerows, creating exercises where the kids can sort of take the eye view of the stoats and weasels and pine martens, which have just been reintroduced into other parts of Wales, to crisscross the land so that they could understand and see nature, see the life of these creatures through their own eyes. and it's created enormous value, and the response from the teachers has been, this is fantastic, you know, and the bookings have now gone into 2 or 3 years, you know, hence forward bookings have really picked up. um, they can see that he's trying to offer something different. In the meantime, he's saying, well, what about the boiler issue? You know, what about net zero and my commitment to carbon and so on? And I said, well, look, why don't we look at that problem not simply in terms of how do I solve it today, but solve it from the next level of system, the system that you're embedded in, the value creating system that is nature. So if you look at it from that perspective and look back at the problem from there, what do you see? And he said, well, what I see is that clearly this is a transitional problem. You know, I've got to transition from oil to LPG, and then from there on to a combination of air source heat pumps and solar energy. You know, and I can see that as a plan. And he said, well, that's taken a big weight off my shoulders, because I can see the trajectory and the story I can tell now to my clients, mostly schools, but also, you know, corporates who come there to do away days. So if he's claiming to be regenerative or wanting to be on a regenerative path, then he's not, he has to have that story to tell. But he can also forgive himself for being in transition necessarily, as you know, as this old boiler, which is going to cost about 25 grand to replace, it is part of a project to get towards a state at which he's fully regenerative as a business. But the other aspect to it, and one more thing I'll say about it, is that the Forest of Dean is now wanting to declare itself a biosphere. There are only about 7, I think, across the world, you know, protecting the natural, value of that area. And what he wants to do, through our conversations, is establish the centre as a regenerative hub. So it's not just for schools, but it's also for the local community to understand how to see nature through fresh eyes. And through that, and also for tourism, tourist businesses have come to us. The Y&D Tourist Association have had an away day with us. And through that, enable visitors, not simply who come to the biosphere, not simply to extract a holiday and go away again, having had a nice bike ride or a walk or, you know, stayed for a couple of weeks, but actually to see that protecting nature is a capacity that they can build, that they can take back to their own communities, to their own, you know, gardens, to their own regions, their own communities. So what it's doing is that the business is behaving as if it was a natural system. It's adding value constantly outwards to wider and wider systems. And that's what regeneration is all about. And now that the business is thriving, Resonance Foundation, the impact investment people have said, we really want to invest in you long term. They can see the value of this. They can see the story. They can see the value to the community. They can see, you know, particularly if it becomes a community benefit society, which is now on the cards, that it's going to be a success long term. So that's a very long-winded way of answering your question.
No, that's absolutely fascinating because it's giving us a really great case study of what you do, Paul. So obviously you've touched on a little bit of this already, but what are the results, benefits or improvements that your clients experience from working with you?
Well, I'll give another example. There's a biotech client I have in Oxford at the moment, or near Oxford, and they've got some amazing, they've got an amazing cancer treatment. It's basically a viral vector, a virus that gets into your body, which they then direct to the tumor and make the tumor recognizable to the immune system, so that, you know, tumors usually kind of manage to wrap themselves in one of these kind of Harry Potter-like invisibility cloaks, and that's how they grow, because the immune system can't attack them. So that's what they're doing. But what they've seen, you know, and so, you know, their promise, if you like, to their patients, their beneficiaries, is, you know, you'll be able to live a fuller, more thriving life through having this clinical treatment. And they're in second stage trials, and there's a huge amount of money resting on all of this, you know, for VC money from the States. And but what they've realized is that they're a kind of personality, cult-driven business. So the culture is, you know, driven by certain personalities who are kind of constraining the innovation that's in the teams. We did a number of focus groups to look at the culture, to ask the question, what culture do we need to be able to get to the next stage of what this potential treatment can offer the world? And so we used a kind of a framework, cultural framework, which discerned, look, we have to eliminate, or rather kind of completely kind of dismantle the silo-driven culture and the cult of personality, and put new rituals in place, getting people together, bringing patients in, bringing the oncology surgeons in, so that people can get that sense of togetherness and unity with the mission, and thus to be able to deliver more value, because connecting all that intelligence in the organization together, forgetting about hierarchy or role or position, because everybody's saying, look, I've got these great ideas and no one's listening to me. And so what we're doing now is putting together a plan so that all that innovative capacity can come together, and they can support the next level of development for this company.
Fascinating. Do you find that as a result of the work that you do with organisations, that there's a significant pickup in customer loyalty, and that an increased willingness for investors to invest in businesses that are thinking this way?
I think so, yeah. I mean, the first example, the Wilderness Centre in the Forest of Dean, I mean, that's definitely the case there. We can't yet tell. It looks very positive. I mean, the board have just looked at the report that we put together in the biotech company. They've said, yeah, this is great. They're going to fund us for the next 6 months to help them implement this new culture. So that looks positive. We don't know what the impact is going to be on the oncologists who are going to buy this treatment, or the health services that are going to buy it yet. Across the world, that is. But I'll give another example that a colleague of mine worked on. This is really a little bit weird, but it's a long way away. It's basically a holiday resort in Mexico, and this guy, a New York financier, wanted to set up an eco resort there on the beach. His wife fell in love with this particular stretch of beach because it's got a turtle sanctuary on it, and she's quite fond of turtles. Anyway, so he kind of said, well, yeah, this looks great. We can have all these kind of tree houses, and people will come from LA, from wealthier clients from Mexico. People come in their droves because it's such a beautiful spot. And he met a colleague of mine, Bill Reed, who said, look, rather than thinking of this as a business where people can come and extract and experience, yoga for 5 days or 10 days and a lively beach and go fishing and visit some coffee plantations and so on, why don't you attend to the place that you're situated in? So in other words, think about creating a thriving place so that, there can be this exchange of value between the place and the business. And that's what he did. He discovered something of the story of the place. The fact is, it used to be a really thriving region. It was now in decline. The local town was losing young people. They were going for construction jobs and, basically, cheap labor. And what he's done is invested in local agriculture, training local farmers again to revitalize the land. A lot of it had been depleted by palm oil plantations. And it's now thriving again. He's taking all his food now comes locally. It used to be trucked in from Mexico City. So genuinely an eco resort. He's got local employment. He's really revitalized the place. People are coming back from the construction jobs and coming back because they can see this is growing. This is a growing business, and the region is thriving again. So, and over COVID, there's a huge crash, obviously. But the fact is that his former clients started investing not only in the business, but also in those businesses that were springing up as a result of the success of that eco resort. And so he kept this loyalty going enormously from his suppliers, from his customers, all the way through the COVID period, and it's still thriving. If you want to have a look, it's called Playa Viva in Mexico. So that kind of thinking about how do I, through attending to the next level up, how do I create this value exchange so that, I've got a thriving business? It works.
Fantastic. Loving these case studies. So last question for you, Paul. What makes you different to others that are in the same sector?
Well, I think, thank you for that question. I think sustainability businesses or sustainability consultancies will see sustainability as a bit of a project. You want to do net zero, we'll get you to net zero. I think what we offer, and business consultancies won't necessarily think about what nature can do. Living systems thinking can offer. Take net zero again, looping back to your first question, because it kind of relates to where we position ourselves, is that net zero is great. We need to do it, right? We have to reduce emissions. and not just emissions. We've also got to take care of biodiversity as well, as we know. It's all interlinked. If you look at it simply as a project, you are not getting the best out of it, and you might be spending even more money than you should be. If you look at it from the perspective of being regenerative, in other words, generating systems of value which are constantly, renewing themselves, and you look at net zero, you can ask more fundamental questions about your business. What business am I actually in? What do I care about? What's my essence? What's my why? And how does that express itself better in the world? And lots of coaches here on this call will understand, will recognize that question. But it goes deeper in regeneration because you're actually asking, what am I ultimately serving? What system am I ultimately regenerating? And that question might lead to, well, actually, do I need, 2 offices? Do I need all this equipment? Do I, all of the things that cost you carbon? Maybe I don't need all of those in the first place. So my net zero plan becomes much more relevant to my value offer, and I might save money as well. So this kind of framework, if you like, allows you to rethink what seem to be business burdens and turn them into a benefit.
Fantastic. Paul, that's been absolutely fascinating. I've got just one of my own questions at the end here is who would be an ideal referral? What sort of conversations should make us prick our ears up and go, oh, you need to speak to Paul?
Well, that's a lovely question. Thank you. I think anybody who would really, who thinks there's more potential value in their business than they're getting out of it at the moment, and that they sort of have a hunch that there's more, that we can, more potential that we can, express in the world. Anybody who wants to look at net zero from another perspective would be another one. And then, people who just generally think that actually I've got to, I want to leave a legacy behind, and I want that legacy to be both social and environmental. I care about, my community. I care about making my business contributing in a way which will leave an impact, which will have an impact after I've gone. Maybe something I can pass on.
Fantastic. Paul, thank you so much for sharing information about your business today. I'm going to be introducing you to my sister who does marketing in the eco and environmentally friendly and sustainable world. I hope all of you have found that really interesting. And I am just going to have a brief pause now before we go on to the second interview. So our second interview today, our expert in the room is Matt Sear. Now, I met Matt through another networking group and noticed he was coming to this group as well. And I'm absolutely fascinated by Matt's expertise because he's got things like TikTok in his list of questions that he sent to me, and TikTok makes me go, oh, and yet I work with teenagers. So who is Matt? Matt founded the Sear Media Group. He's a self-confessed social media nerd. Love it. Candidly, he started his venture because a lot of content that businesses post online sucks. He's very down to earth, is our Matt. But it doesn't have to. He says that he doesn't believe in preaching to the choir and teaching you the basics of putting together an Instagram reel and YouTube. You can't do that. He said instead, he just wants 15 minutes of your time to help you solve the should I, shouldn't I dilemma when it comes to marketing online. So, Matt, my first question for you. If you could make one problem disappear for everybody you work with, what would it be?
Yeah, it's a good question. So the main one is not knowing where to start. People ask me all of the time, I don't know what to make. And they'll turn around and say, my business is really boring, or there's no one on TikTok like me. And generally getting started isn't as complicated as you might think. The barrier to entry online at the moment, especially on TikTok, is a kind of slightly newer platform and businesses haven't really fully adopted it yet. The barrier to entry isn't very high. If you're producing something that is feasible and looks smart and has been well thought out, and you're asking yourself the right questions before you get started, then you're ready to go.
Okay, so I'm ready to go on TikTok then. That scares me slightly. I have been in business for 5.5 years. Lots of other people have been in business for longer or shorter times. And one of the things that I always think, I do my own social media. Lots of people do their social media internally. why wouldn't that work necessarily? Why would a social media manager, a pro, be a much better option?
So there's two ways of looking at it. So either you're doing it yourself as the business owner, which means it's taking time away from the other stuff that actually makes you money. I think people forget that social media isn't the money maker. It's a marketing tool. So you're trying to put people into your funnel so that you can convert them on the back end and then bring them in as clients. So if you, the fulfillment person, is spending time on your social media, um, then it's taking away from that time. The other side of things is if you're looking to bring in a person internally. So say, for example, you want to go and get like a graduate or somebody to be your junior social media manager or a videographer or someone that's going to come in and do 40 hours a week with you. That gets really expensive really quickly. And the level of expertise you're going to get from somebody that's coming straight out of university is a real roll of the dice. I've worked internally with marketing companies, and there's a real sort of gap and a spectrum of how good that internal talent could be. So again, it's expensive to hire people, and it's also equally as expensive to fire people. I think they say on Indeed now it takes 42 days to fulfill a job listing. So you could spend 2, maybe 3 months trying to find the right candidate, and 6 months training that candidate, and then 3 months of actually watching them get good at what they do. You could be a year, 18 months, 2 years down the line before you've even realized you've got the wrong person. The difference with agency is it's super dexterous. If we were to have a chat today, get you started, I mean, I could probably fit you in before Christmas, frankly. And you just won't get that from an internal person. So there's two different ways of weighing it up. Is it taking away your time? And, the answer is usually yes, whether you're hiring or, whether you're doing it yourself. And yeah, B, is there somebody that I can go to that can put this together for you? Again, a long answer to a simple question.
That's right. Don't worry. That's what we're here for. Okay, so this question it's probably all about me, but actually, we're going to ask it anyway. Is TikTok for teenagers? Is it a waste of time if my customers are over 25? Well, my customers aren't. They're under 25. But go on, tell us about TikTok. Get it out
So
there.
TikTok's really funny. It's the quick answer to that is yes, your audience is on there. One thing I think we've all learned about the internet is there's a little pocket, a little niche for everything. If you go onto Facebook and search for Facebook groups on literally any topic you can think of, there will be 3 to 5 groups of people that are totally obsessed with whatever niche thing it is that you're either providing or just interested in. So they're estimated 1.4 billion users on TikTok every single month, which, assuming that's one account per person, which it isn't, but it's just for ease of maths, that would mean that 40% of people with Wi-Fi or with access to the internet have a TikTok account, which kind of tells you how broad this platform is. They took a massive amount of market share out of all of the other platforms simply because they're just doing it better. So the interesting thing with TikTok is if you make rubbish content on TikTok, it just won't go anywhere. So for example, if you're putting something together for a Facebook ad, you're going to get the amount of views that you pay for, regardless of whether your content is any good. So it's a fantastic litmus test for whether what you're putting together is worthwhile. Because if you make a fantastic piece of content, it will go viral. And there's never been a platform quite like that before. YouTube used to do it, but it was, the barrier to entry was always higher. TikTok, it's possible for you and I to go away, put some TikToks together, and in Q1, in all likelihood, you'll be doing hundreds of thousands of views by the end of that business quarter.
Wow. Oh, there we go. A whole untapped avenue for some of us and some compulsory for others, I'm feeling. Okay then, Matt, what 3 things do I need to consider when launching my business onto social media? Now, lots of us have businesses already on social media, so maybe we should be relaunching our businesses on social media. But what 3 things do we need to think about?
So it's interesting you say relaunch, because relaunch is quite an interesting way of looking at it, because most of the platforms now will prioritize new accounts. So I don't know how many of you have posted on TikTok or posted Instagram Reels. Your first one always outperforms your next 3 or 4. It's just kind of a rule of thumb. Now, there's 2 reasons for this. One, TikTok's trying to learn what you make and who's interested in your thing. So it'll throw it out to loads of different people. It's the same with Instagram. Throw it out to loads of different people and see kind of who bites. And it means that, it gives you a little bit more runway to try and find out who those people are. And then the next time you post, they're going to try and bring those people that enjoyed it back. So a relaunch might actually be a really interesting way of doing it for most of your businesses, especially if you've kind of been posting here and there for the last sort of 6 months, year, 18 months. Chances are you haven't got nearly the audience that you could have, not even close. And maybe creating a new account with some bespoke video or with some bespoke content is actually the best way of doing it, because you're already fighting an uphill battle if you try and launch that stuff onto an existing page. So that's kind of a side part. But the three things to consider. So this isn't the content itself. This is more, is your business viable for social media? Because not everyone is. So the first thing is the commitment of it. So could you do this for an entire year and not give up and just be consistent with it? So again, for sole traders, what we were saying earlier, if you're a sole trader, you don't have very much time. It's probably going to take you a working week of your month if you want to post every single day onto these platforms. And you don't have to post every single day, but if you want to see the results, that consistency and that volume is really, really important, because you're going to find out what sucks faster. You're going to figure out what people enjoy, and you're going to get better at making the stuff because it's part of your kind of daily routine, or it's something that you do every single month. Now, if you're a sole trader, that can become really difficult because you're losing a week of fulfillment time. And then maybe you can consider the agency route. So you then need to have a look and see if you've got enough runway for you to be able to outsource that for at least 6 months, if not a year. So can you put up the collateral to go, right, I'm going to put 6 months or 12 months of funds into this agency to put this thing together? So when we work with clients, we ask for a 3-month viability test. So we'll work together for a month. If you don't like my breath, you don't enjoy working with me, we just don't click, that's fine. We can part. That's okay, because those relationships are often doomed from the start. All of you that have got clients will understand that one. Then we ask for 3 months to go, let's iterate and figure out what you like and make the content work. And then we ask for 6 months to then, so after 6 months, you should really begin converting and bringing people on the back end. Now, that can be a long time for new businesses to wait. And you need to know that you have 6 months, not quite to go down the drain, but 6 months to work it out, to iterate and to make it happen. If that's not the case, you're probably not ready for social media yet, because either you're not profitable enough or your time horizons just don't match up. So the next one, is your service high enough ticket to make this straightforward? So generally, we like to work with people that are either 4-figure lifetime value or 4-figure cart value. So, it's really good for like business coaches, for financiers, web designers, web developers, because they're selling an expensive thing, or they're selling a service that someone will spend a lot of money on over a period of time. So then their spend is much more worthwhile. If you're selling a product, say, I don't know, you're a direct-to-consumer brand and you sell maybe candles, and your candles are £12 a go, it begins to get really difficult to get the return either on your time or on your spend when you go to an agency. So social media for higher ticket guys is fantastic. If you're one of these pages that has this fantastic knack for going viral all of the time, don't worry about it. You'll be absolutely fine, because the people will come and people will buy your thing. It's just purely an exposure game. But for the rest of us, the 99% of accounts that aren't going to go viral every time, everything they touch doesn't turn to gold. You need to really consider how many views you need to get for someone to purchase your thing, and then what that cart value is. So we go for the higher ticket guys, but if you're selling something that's, I don't know, a lifetime value of £300, £400, £500, then I would imagine it would be worth it. We always ask people, so our goals by the end of the first quarter working with you is to do approximately 140, 150,000 views a month going forward from there across your platforms. So, if next month you reached 150,000 people, new people that had never heard of you before, what would that look like for your bottom line? And would it positively impact what you're doing? And then you have to factor in either the spend of working with us or the cost of the time that you're spending to find that many people. So that's that one. And then the next one is my business ready yet? And this is a really horrible question to ask yourself. But social media isn't there to take you from 0 to 1. We're not there to come in and suddenly take a business that's not profitable or a business that struggles to sell on like a hand-to-hand combat basis. If you're not converting in networking events, or you're having calls with people and people aren't interested in your thing, it's going to be really difficult to sell it over social media. And it's not the magic bullet that's going to make that happen. So essentially, you're looking to be a higher ticket business that is viable and already profitable, and you've got the runway to make it happen. That's kind of the perfect cocktail for a business that's going to do really well on social media.
Fascinating. Because everybody's like, we all need social media, but actually making that decision to go and outsource it to an agency has a whole load of stuff involved.
Mm-hmm.
One last question. If I was going to go to you as an agency, Matt, why would I spend money on TikTok when I can buy views on Facebook?
Yeah, so this is an interesting one. So with TikTok, there's no, and this is the same for all organic media, whether you're on Facebook, you're on YouTube, you're on TikTok, even LinkedIn, there's no guarantee that you're going to reach a certain amount of people. Now, it's no secret that on Facebook, you can go on there and you can go, I would like this to reach X amount of people, or I have £100 to spend, and it will give you a rough estimate of how many people you're going to reach, and you can plug in what their interests might be. The targeting and the numbers on Facebook are getting worse and worse year on year, month on month even. I did a check a few months ago. It's probably 3 months ago now, and it was approximately £14 to get 70,000 views. It's £14 per 1,000 views. So that's your CPM. The targeting on that is getting worse, and the CPM itself is getting more expensive. So if you want to go forward with Facebook ads and you've got a huge amount of spend, it makes loads and loads of sense. Like it's fantastic. The other side of things is TikTok's so good for reaching a huge amount of people, and you should be going past what you would reach on Facebook very, very quickly. So again, poorly articulated, but if I was to break it down for you, we've got a client who did about 15, I think he did 15 to 17 million views in his first 6 months with us. And we broke down what that would be for Facebook CPM. And because he's a financier, his interests that he would have to put money into, it would have cost him approximately £127,000 to reach that many people. And he was on a £999 a month package with us. So he spent sub £6,000 and we saved him in the region of £120,000. And it gets to a point where you're reaching that many people that it kind of becomes a no-brainer that you're going to begin converting on the back end. So it is simply a game of, do I want to pay for a certainty that is going to be this, or do I want to kind of roll the dice, spend 6 months putting something together, build a brand, reach more people, and potentially have it bears more fruit. So I can't promise. I saw a question about ROI. I can't promise ROIs because I simply can't, because I can't tell you how many people are going to see your thing. What we can do is we can set KPIs. We can have conversations about what your conversion is on the back end. So say, for example, you convert 20% of the people that sit down and have phone calls with you. So, if we were to show your thing to 150,000, 200,000 people, how many calls would we be looking to book? What would that do for your bottom line if we took your conversion? And does that then make sense on a return on spend? It's not always yes, because, like I say, some of the lower value guys or people that are selling direct to consumer, it's very, very difficult for those guys to justify £1,000 a month spend. But if you're selling cars, if you're selling houses, if you're selling an expensive thing or an expensive service, 150,000 people, and we bring in 20, 30 calls, it begins to look like a real money-making machine.
Okay, brilliant, Matt. Thank you very much. And well done for picking up next question. One last question for you before I go out and ask other people questions. If you don't have the £1,000 a month to spend on your social media,
Mm-hmm.
Presumably there are still things that we can kind of learn and do better? Now, I know
Mhm.
you're big on video content, and video content, lots of people go, oh,
Mhm.
run a million miles. So what could we be, those of us that are still doing it ourselves, what could we be doing more of that would make it better?
Yeah. So the first thing is you need to embrace video. And I know it's scary. And I know it's not what you want to hear, but it's what you need to do. So Instagram came out last year or earlier this year saying they're a video first platform. If you scroll through your feed, you're seeing a lot more kind of random videos from people that you're not interested in. And you know, it's a long story, but Instagram's a bit of a funny place for social media at the moment. I think they kind of sort of lost their identity a bit. But everyone's copying TikTok because TikTok are doing so well. You look at all of the platforms and they're kind of all bringing in either like a reel or like a For You page style. Like it's how it's all set up. Um, the best way to reach loads of people is either by making TikToks or making Instagram reels, both of which need to be video. Because if you put up a still on your TikTok or on your Instagram reel, it's not going to go anywhere. So that's the number one way to reach people that have never seen you before. So there's so many fantastic resources that you can go and find. YouTube's fantastic. There's loads of free things that you can read through that will give you the basics of how to make your stuff look better, how to make your stuff sound better. And then it's just sitting down and going, what are my targets? What do I want people to understand? What do I want people to know? And how can I package that into a 30-second clip of me talking to my phone? It is as simple as that. And in practice, it's slightly more complicated, as we all know. But if you can put up your elevator pitch and you're about me and what people can expect from your content going forward, and just start to build that little community, you can do that for free. It doesn't need to take you that much time. And I'd recommend putting it together if you can tick all of those three boxes that I said to you about before.
Fantastic. Thank you very, very much, Matt. Does anybody have any questions for Matt?
Avoid taking headshots out of cars. Yeah, I totally agree.
Excellent. So if nobody's got any questions for Matt, Matt, thank you for sharing a bit of your genius with us this morning around social media. If any of you want to go back and watch that, obviously it's been recorded. So what we're going to do now is move on to the next bit of the meeting. I'm just going to let Jill stop the recording.